points that you've made. John Herbst is a former US ambassador to Ukraine in our Berlin studio. You heard there from Enrique that basically the people in Donetsk are just struggling to survive. They're not interested in the politics. They just want their life to improve. Is this Minsk agreement going to improve their lives?
No, because the Kremlin's aggression in Ukraine is going to continue. All the parties to the agreement in Minsk wanted the ceasefire to begin from the moment it was signed. Only Mr. Putin and the separatists, who are actually his agents, insisted on 2.5 more days of fighting because they want to destroy the Ukrainian troops in Debaltseve. If they were truly interested in peace, they would have had an immediate ceasefire. If they were truly interested in peace, they would let Ukraine control the border. Because since Russia controls the border, Russia continues to send advanced military equipment into Ukraine. It continues to recruit and send in volunteer fighters to Ukraine, and it continues to send its own regular army officers and military officers into Ukraine. There are hundreds, if not 1,000, Russian officers serving right now in the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic. Mr. Putin is not interested in peace. He's interested in destabilizing Ukraine.
So what is the answer then, John? If the Minsk agreement isn't the answer to bring peace, what should the West, what should the Ukrainian government be doing?
Well, I think Mr. Poroshenko needed to sign that agreement, even though the agreement is dreadful in its terms, because his troops are in danger and he wanted to get the ceasefire even if it took 2.5 days for the other side to agree to it. The way that we can get an honorable peace in Ukraine is to put serious pressure on the Kremlin for its aggression there. Part of that pressure is sanctions. Sanctions that are in place right now are strong. Perhaps they could be strengthened. The second is to help give Ukraine the weapons to fight Russian aggression. In Washington, there is growing consensus, it hasn't been achieved yet, that the United States should send defensive lethal weapons to Ukraine. Defensive, designed not to let Ukraine take back the territory already seized by the Kremlin, but to prevent the Kremlin and its agents in Ukraine from seizing more Ukrainian land.
So, John, you're saying that the way forward then is about arming the Ukrainian army. The US government should be arming them, and also more sanctions, something, of course, which Angela Merkel has threatened today, the German Chancellor, if this peace accord fails. I want to bring in Igor Sutyagin, who is a research fellow at the Royal United Services Institute here in London. Igor, tell me what you make of this deal. Do you agree with the assessment we heard there from John Herbst?
Well, I would say that my perception is that that is good chance, but there is very long way to go if you want to reach real success. The problem, and the key problem, is that the control over border should be handed back to Ukraine only after elections, which means that the Putin's objective to re-inject Donbass as Trojan horse into Ukraine is actually on the way, because elections should be held under the guns of Russian tanks and Russian volunteers, tanks bought in Voentorg.
Let's bring in Casey Michel, who is in New York. Spoke to you earlier this week on World Have You Say Radio. Great to have you on our TV programme. Your thoughts on what you've heard from John and also from Igor?
Well, I would have to say that the ambassador in his assessment is spot on. I would agree with every word that he has said thus far. And the earlier guests, I think, made one of the finer points that we've seen come out in the aftermath of these accords. The greatest ingredient in these new Minsk Accords seems to be hope and optimism. And it's a hope that I cannot share. It's a hope that's misplaced. It's a trust that is not deserved. As the ambassador said, the key actor within the enforcement of these accords remains the Kremlin. And the Kremlin remains the key actor that has seen this crisis forward, that has been the main progenitor and enforcer of this violence, seeking to carve out enclaves in eastern Ukraine.
Well, Casey, let me get Igor to speak with you, because Igor seems to be the most optimistic of the three of you right now. And I'm keen, Igor, you speak to John, speak also to Casey, and tell us why you're so optimistic, why you think this can work.
Well, I'm not very much optimistic. Actually, I'm rather pessimistic about that. I just try to say that there is chance to be done, but we witness now how this chance is evaporating, because Peskov's statement that Russia is not part of the conflict means that Russia does not want to take any responsibility. And the problem is that the agreement as it was signed does not put any responsibility on Russia. Russia did not take any obligations, which is interesting. There are Ukrainian obligations, there are German and French obligations to support Ukrainian obligations. There are no Kremlin's obligations, which means that that is very good way for Russia away from any responsibility. And that desire to keep to stay irresponsible, that is not a very optimistic sign. there is hope if that will be fulfilled. There is hope to solve some part of this problem. But what Peskov says shows that they do not want to take that hope, do not want to fulfill.
OK, Igor, thank you so much. Thank you also to Casey and to John as well. That's all we've got time for this half of World Have Your Say. Do stay with us. We'll be back in the next few minutes and we will carry on talking. Of course, if you want to get in touch with us, the best way to do it is Facebook, facebook.com/World Have Your Say. We've also got Twitter using the hashtag WHYS. After the break, we'll be heading over to Dresden to bring you all the latest speeches from that commemoration of 70 years since the bombing of that city during World War II. Do stay with us here on World Have Your Say. We'll carry on talking.
Let me say something.